Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My dad wasn't just any dad. He was well known, respected, and held a high-ranking government position. To most people on the outside, our family seemed perfect. We had the big house, expensive vacations, and a level of comfort that many envied. But behind those polished family photos was a story I never imagined I'd have to tell. My mother was kind, selfless, and endlessly supportive of my dad's demanding career. I always thought that her quiet strength was the backbone of our family. Growing up, I was looking at her, thinking that she is a perfect wife, who always made sure homemade food was ready, waiting on the table for my father when he gets back home. His clothes perfectly ironed, his lunchbox ready, his gym bag packed, the flowers watered, the house spotlessly clean. But it looks like it wasn't enough for my father. That's why it felt like the entire world tilted on its axis when I learned my father was cheating. No one suspected my father was having an affair. At home, he was the same as he had always been, charming, attentive, never late for dinner. He never disappeared on strange work trips or started coming home at odd hours. In fact, he gave no indication at all that anything was wrong. Life seemed normal, at least to me. That's why it was such a shock when one evening he calmly sat my mother down, looked her in the eye, and dropped the news on her. I've been seeing someone else, and I want a divorce. I still remember the stunned look on my mom's face, the way her hands trembled as she tried to process what she was hearing. There was no fight, no accusations. She simply sat there, silent, while he stood up, grabbed his coat, and walked out. It wasn't until he was gone that she finally broke down. I remember standing in the kitchen when all that happened and running to hug her when she started crying. I remember thinking she is so perfect. It's not possible to find anyone more perfect than her. He will change his mind. Clara, the other woman. Even saying her name brings back a flood of anger and frustration. She was the polar opposite of perfection and my mother. My mom was gracious, calm, polite, educated, and never sought attention. Clara was brash, loud, disrespectful, and always needed to be the center of every room she entered. I'll never forget the first time I met her, when my dad introduced her as his friend. She had a grating laugh that she used far too often, and she spoke to me like I was some child in her way. She never bothered to show an ounce of respect for my mom, referring to her as that woman or his boring ex. Worse still, she seemed to take pleasure in trying to humiliate my mom, saying things like, "She just couldn't keep him happy. What do you expect? Mrs. Perfect is not what men want, darling. You should learn that lesson." Her disdain for my mom and her complete disregard for how that might affect me left me fuming. How could my dad, the man who had taught me about dignity, respect, manners, and morals, stand by and let her treat me and my mom that way? When my father told me he was marrying Clara, I refused to accept it. I still held on to some faint hope that he'd come to his senses, that maybe the affair was just a phase, middle-aged crisis, and he'd see that what he was doing was hurting everyone involved. But no, he wasn't just moving forward with the relationship, he was doubling down on it. I remember him trying to soften the blow by saying, "She's not so bad once you get to know her, and this is what makes me happy." But I wasn't having it. I told him flat out, I'm not going to the wedding. I said it calmly, but firmly. He was caught off guard, clearly not expecting me to push back. "You're my daughter, you'll be there," he said, as if it were a done deal. But I meant what I said. When the wedding day approached, my father became more desperate. First, he tried reasoning with me, saying, "You don't have to like her, but please do it for me." When that didn't work, he shifted to bribery. How about a new phone, an upgraded car, extra allowance? I turned it all down. I couldn't be bought. I thought that would be the end of it, but then he became angry. "You think you can humiliate me in front of all of those people? Do you know who's going to be at that wedding?" he yelled, his face red with frustration. When I still refused, he took my car keys and cut off my monthly allowance. "You'll learn your lesson," he muttered. I didn't care. Missing his and Claire's wedding wasn't something I would ever regret. The day of the wedding was tense. I stayed in my room while the rest of the house buzzed with preparations. Clara's laugh echoed through the halls. When they left, the house was quiet again, and I stayed home, relieved that I wouldn't have to face the spectacle. But it was only the beginning of the conflict between me and my father. After my parents' divorce, my mom wasn't eager to jump into anything new. She spent most of her time focusing on me, trying to make sure I was okay. She didn't complain. She just tried to be supportive and there for me whenever I needed her. But over time, she started opening up again. I think she realized she deserved to be happy too. She met Robert at a community event that one of her friends had convinced her to attend. Robert looked like a really nice and decent guy. Over the next several months, they spent more and more time together. He came over for dinners, helped with household projects, and I really started to like him. Eventually, their relationship grew stronger. I could see my mom becoming happier and more relaxed. Robert made her feel safe and valued, and it showed in how she carried herself. After some time, he proposed. She came home that night smiling ear to ear and showed me her ring. She was excited. I was excited for her. When the wedding day finally came around, I was supposed to be spending that weekend with my dad. According to the custody arrangement, I'd stay at his place, but he'd agreed to take me over to my mom's wedding in the morning. My mom even double-checked with him to make sure everything was fine. He told her he was happy for her and that he'd bring me by without any issues. But when the morning came, I was all dressed up, standing in the hallway ready to go, and my dad suddenly said, "You're not going." I was completely caught off guard. I asked him what he was talking about, and he just said, "You didn't come to my wedding, so you're not going to hers." I couldn't believe it. I reminded him that he promised my mom, that he told her it wasn't a problem. But he just repeated, "You're not going. Go to your room." He stood there like a guard, awaiting for me to go upstairs. When I went, thinking I will escape somehow later, he followed me, went to my room, took my computer and phone, and left locking my door behind. I sat there stunned. I still couldn't believe what he had just done. I tried to reason with him through the door, yelling, "Let me out, this isn't fair." He ignored me. Hours passed, and I missed the entire ceremony. I was devastated. My mom must have been looking around, wondering where I was, maybe even thinking I didn't care enough to show up. It broke my heart knowing she had to walk down the aisle without her child by her side. I realized this wasn't something he decided at the last minute. He had planned to keep me from her wedding all along. I felt betrayed, not just for myself, but for my mom. When my dad finally unlocked the door the next day, I was beyond furious. He acted like it was no big deal, like it was a lesson I needed to learn. But I wasn't going to let this go. As soon as I got my hands on a phone, I called Child Protective Services and told them everything. How he locked me up, how I was denied food and contact with the outside world, and how he constantly let Clara mistreat me. They took me seriously. By the end of the day, CPS arrived at the house and escorted me to my mom's home. My mom was waiting for me at the door, and when she saw me, she immediately started crying. "I was so worried," she said, hugging me so tightly I could hardly breathe. I told her everything, how my dad locked me in the room, how he kept me from calling her, how he used every tactic in the book to control me. "He had no right to do that to you," she said. Her new husband, who had been nothing but supportive, added, "You don't have to go back there. You're safe here now." My mom said my father's not getting away with what he did. He can't just lock you up and expect no consequences. She promised to pursue legal action. My mom wasn't the type to make empty threats. When she said she was going to pursue legal action against my father, she meant it. She met with a lawyer, shared everything, how he locked me in my room, took my phone, and basically held me captive to stop me from attending her wedding. It wasn't about revenge for her. It was about setting boundaries and making sure he faced consequences for his behavior. She filed the appropriate paperwork, and while it wasn't an immediate process, she made it clear that she wasn't going to back down. Meanwhile, I decided to share my experience online. I didn't name my father outright, but I wrote a long, detailed post about what had happened. How I was locked in a room by a parent who couldn't handle me attending my mom's wedding. How it wasn't the first time he had tried to control me. And how my mother filed a lawsuit against him, and how I'm living with my mom full-time now. I wasn't prepared for the reaction. Within hours, the post went viral. People started commenting, sharing their own stories of family struggles, and expressing their outrage over what had happened. It didn't stop there. A few local reporters caught wind of my post, tracked down who my father was, and wrote an article how he locked his daughter in his house so she wouldn't be able to attend her mother's wedding. Suddenly, this family drama was a public affair. Well, my father is a public figure, so I can't blame anybody. I hadn't spoken to my father since the day I left his house. I blocked his number, deleted him from my contacts, and refused to engage. But one day, I received an angry email from him. He accused me of ruining his career and dragging our family's name through the mud. He said I'd humiliated him in front of his peers and colleagues, and that I'd destroyed everything he'd worked for. He didn't apologize or acknowledge what he'd done to me. It was all about how my actions had hurt him. Am I the a-hole for ruining my father's career? OP is definitely not the a-hole. OP's dad is a grown man who made his choices. He decided to leave OP's mom and marry someone who disrespected both of them. He doesn't get to demand OP's support or lock OP up to keep OP from attending a wedding. I'm so sorry OP went through that. Good on OP for standing up for herself and holding him accountable. Hope OP and her mom can find peace away from his toxicity. And now let's hear the community's opinion. What the hell? Locking you in a room so you wouldn't attend your own mom's wedding? That's beyond controlling. It's aggressive. No wonder he's upset about his reputation. He knows what he did was completely messed up. I'm glad your mom is standing up for you and that you've cut contact. No one should have to endure that kind of treatment. I can't believe your dad thought that would work. Like, what did he expect you would do? Just forgive him for literally imprisoning you because you didn't bow to his demands? The fact that he's angrier about his reputation than about losing his relationship with you says it all. You did the right thing by getting out and standing your ground. Your dad sounds like a massive piece of work. It's disgusting how he tried to manipulate you and then retaliated when you didn't want to do what he wanted. No child should have to deal with that kind of treatment. You're absolutely not the a-hole, and I hope your mom's legal actions bring some justice to this situation. My dad died when I was 7, and my mom remarried when I was 9. My mom's husband has a daughter the same age as me, Carrie. Carrie's mom is a crappy person, and last year my stepdad learned that his ex stole from Carrie and took all the money my stepdad had saved for Carrie's college. Carrie was upset because she really wants to go to college, and what she wants to do means like 8 years in college. She wanted to have as much help as possible, but now it's all gone. They've been talking about it a lot, and my stepdad tried to find a way to get more money, since even though he pressed charges against his ex, the money is long gone and there's no way to get it back. My mom asked me if I would be willing to share the money Dad left me for college with Carrie, and she told me how good of a sister I would be to help her after being betrayed by her mom. That I didn't need to, but it would mean so much to everyone. I told her I didn't want to share the money with Carrie. Mom said okay, but then wanted to know why. I didn't tell her the whole truth initially, and told her I just wanted to keep the money for me, since it was saved by Dad, and what he wanted for my future. But she didn't really buy that for me, and a week or two later asked me again. So I told her the truth. That Carrie and I are not close. We're not sisters, and I don't want to help someone in such a huge way when I really don't care about them, or even care if they're in my life. My mom told me she was surprised I felt that way. Then I pointed out that she and her husband have known for years, that they used to point out how we never interacted like siblings. She told me she figured we still loved each other in some way. I told her I didn't anyway. Mom then told me I was wrong to refuse to help for that reason, that whether I like it or not, we are siblings, family, and Carrie deserves to have this. She told me I was being very selfish, and she would hope my dad would be angry at me for not embracing Carrie as a sister, despite our issues, and not helping her. Then she told her husband what I said, and he was pissed at me. Am I the a-hole? You are not the a-hole, and please make sure they can't get hold of that money. Your dad wanted that for you, no one else. Carrie has her own father and mother to provide for her. Your mother is out of line. Carrie is your stepsister. You can acknowledge her as a sibling, but that doesn't mean you need to like her, love her, or give her your father's money. Not the a-hole. If your dad was here, he surely would not have just handed off money he saved for your college education. That is your money, for your education. Her situation sucks, but that is not for you to fix. Not the a-hole. Hopefully the money is protected so your mom and stepdad can't access it. There will be a lot of pressure from them on you to give in. Be strong and don't give in. Another option you may want to consider is to offer to loan her the money at a decent interest rate. But that has the risk that she can declare bankruptcy one day and owe you nothing. But definitely not the a-hole. For context, I have a very weird chocolate allergy. I still eat chocolate things, but only in high moderation. As if I eat too much chocolate, my body revolts against me and I have to spend the night in the hospital. We found out that I get sick more whenever I eat chocolate cake, and because of that, I've been avoiding chocolate cake since we found out this weird allergy. Now that the context is there, the story. Today is my stepsister's son's birthday, my nephew. I agreed to go, although she hates me. Context for this is that I'm technically a fatherless child born out of wedlock, and since she wasn't born out of wedlock, she thinks she's better than me. I still love my little nephew, as her hate for me isn't going to bleed into our relationship together. The boy fell asleep the first couple of minutes, he's 2, and most of it was just her glaring at me as he fell asleep in my arms, before I gave him up to his dad. The room atmosphere was tense, and while we were eating, my stepdad tried to make jokes to fill it, but failed. After a while of this, I left, not wanting to make anyone uncomfortable, sitting outside until the other partygoers came, playing me sitting outside off by trying to do homework. When the birthday boy woke up, we gathered around the cake and sang happy birthday to him, before stepsis helped him cut the cake. When she opened it, I saw that it was chocolate, and while she was handing it out to her friends and my mom, stepdad, and 2 sisters, I politely declined the cake, stating that it looked delicious. It was a cocoa melon cake, but I was full from earlier. She used this to go off on a mini rant that this is why I hated her, and that I've always hated her because she had stable parents growing up, and all I had was my mom since my dad ran off. I got rightly offended, at least I thought so, and left to sit outside until the party was over. I thought I was in the right, since I didn't want to waste cake. If I got a piece, it'd be going straight in the trash, and I didn't want to struggle through the awkwardness of standing around with a piece of cake for 30 minutes before I could hand it off to someone. So I thought just declining, because I was full, was the right thing. When the party was over, my stepdad went off on a rant about how I disrespected his daughter. Am I not his daughter as well? And how I should have been more respectful and just took and ate the cake. My mom was on my side, and we both argued that I was just protecting myself from a trip to the hospital later. But my stepdad complained the entire ride to the store, and we just decided to go back to the house. My stepsister also called me later and talked about how I was being a bee, and I really don't understand. I don't understand what I did wrong, straight up. Am I an a-hole for not accepting the cake? Did I do something wrong? Not the a-hole. Allergy or not, who the duck flips their crap because someone politely declines cake? Not the a-hole. Nobody is required to have a piece of cake at a birthday party. Cake gets refused all the time. They are making drama for the sake of making drama. You're good, especially knowing that said cake would send you to the hospital. If you really wanted to start drama, you could have countered her claim that not accepting cake was demonstrating you hated her by telling her that her having a chocolate cake was demonstrating that she wanted to kill you. She's a major a-hole. Not the a-hole, but your stepdad and stepsister are a-holes. You did the right thing by politely declining. You have a chocolate allergy and would have gotten sick if you ate the cake. Aren't your stepdad and stepsister aware of your allergy? All of my family is. My mom made sure of it after an incident when I was 6. He knows because he's gotten my cakes each year and has had to get vanilla cakes each year. She knows because she lived with us for 5 years, and my mom ingrained it into her memory. At least that's what I thought. I, 23 female, was not invited to my older sister's, 28 female, wedding last week. She blamed it on it being more of an elopement than a wedding, and she said that she didn't have the space for my boyfriend, 28 male, and I to join. One of our mutual friends who is her bridesmaid posted a photo of the invitation, so I googled the venue and knew that while it may have been a small wedding space, there's definitely no reason why 2 more people wouldn't be able to make it. I even asked my parents about this since it is my sister getting married. We've always had a close relationship, and I've known the groom since they met and supported their relationship fully. My parents just said that since my sister and my now brother-in-law are paying for the wedding themselves, I should respect their wishes and just send a nice gift. I know that the real reason she doesn't want me there is because I'm currently 36 weeks pregnant out of wedlock with my boyfriend, who my family does not approve of, only because he's a tattoo artist. I also have tattoos and colored hair, and this also isn't something our very conservative family agrees with. Since I had the event location, date, time from the Instagram post of their invitation, I decided that my boyfriend and I should go anyways. We dressed nicely, even more conservatively than usual, and brought her a nice gift too. When we showed up, everyone acted completely normal, like they expected us to be there. Even my sister faked it, and we took photos and acted like nothing ever happened. It wasn't until after the professional photos were done, she pulled me aside and absolutely lost it. I called her out for lying to me, and she did admit that I was an embarrassment to her and our family, just because of how I looked and who I decided to date. After that, we left, and I was sobbing in the car. She hasn't spoken to me since she blocked my number. Our parents are just telling me to give her space. I don't regret going since I wanted to be there to see my sister get married, but she made me feel like absolute crap for wanting to show my support. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. I would also like to add that I was invited to the other wedding things. 3 different bridal showers and the bachelorette, which I didn't attend because I'm pregnant. I had no reason to believe I wasn't invited to the actual wedding until I just never got an invitation and asked her about it. To anyone who thinks that there must be more, there's really not. This isn't the first time I've been left out of family events because of how I look. I'm from a conservative Asian family, and yes, something as simple as having tattoos makes me ashamed to my family. My boyfriend has his own business, owns his own house, is a wonderful partner, but he has tattoos and is not Asian. Final edit. A comment pointed out that not only am I having a baby, but our baby will also be mixed race, and honestly, how they're treating me is making more sense. It's the first baby of the family, out of wedlock, a girl, mixed race, and it's mine, not my older sister's, who was supposed to have the firstborn or whatever. I didn't even consider all that. You're the a-hole. You don't crash a wedding you're not invited to, even if it is your sister's. A lot of planning and money went into the day, and I'm sure the invitation list, especially as it was small, was not chosen without a lot of thought and care. Your behavior and self-important attitude lead me to believe there might be more reasons your sister has chosen to remain estranged from you and did not invite you in the first place. You're the a-hole. Did you really expect it to go well? You crashed to make a point. Does it suck she didn't invite you? Yes, but you weren't invited and inserted yourself in her day when she didn't want you there. You can't be all surprised Pikachu face about her reaction. Everyone sucks here. Your sister shouldn't judge people based on how they look, and you absolutely should not have shown up at somebody's wedding without an invite. You weren't invited, therefore, you shouldn't have been there. Simple. I got married recently, and it was mostly a great day, but there was some minor drama due to my mom. For some background, my parents are divorced, and when they were married, they had a very old-fashioned open marriage agreement. They could cheat with people who were beneath them, usually younger and with service jobs, or with people in their circle with similar marriages who had as much to lose. But my dad ended up having a full-blown affair with Heather and leaving my mom. My mom did not react well. I don't think she really loved him, but she was upset that someone was leaving her. She does have a boyfriend now and is over it, but for a while, her ego was really hurt. Also, for background, my mom and my wife do not like each other. My mom wanted to wear a specific dress for our wedding, but my wife vetoed it as it was too short and a shiny fabric which she felt would draw too much attention. My mom did not believe a bride could veto a dress like that, and there was a huge back and forth. I backed my wife, and my mom wasn't happy but promised she wouldn't wear the dress, and was warned what would happen if she did wear it. The day of the wedding, my mom showed up in something else, and Heather showed up in the dress. I demanded to know if she got it from my mom, and she admitted that she did, and my mom asked her to wear it, and gave the full story. I snapped at Heather, but my real issue was with my mom. I pulled her aside and asked her why she did that. She played dumb and said we said she couldn't wear it, not that Heather couldn't. At this point, my wife was furious, so I did go low to be honest. I told my mom she was a B, and that is why my dad left her for another woman, and that even if she wore the dress, everyone there would still know that she is 42 years old, single, and her husband wanted someone better. My mom didn't say anything, but her boyfriend walked in and heard the last part and went ballistic. He was kicked out by security, and she chose to go with him. She says she doesn't care what I said, but multiple people have called me a monster, aggressive, an a-hole. I just got so angry to see her hurting my wife like that. Not the a-hole. Yeah, it's pretty harsh what you said, but it's somewhat true, and I think your parents have done a number on you, embarrassed you almost your whole life. What happened to your mom is sad, but she agreed to an open relationship. Those do not turn out so well. You reap what you sow. And for both parents to act like jerks on you and your bride's day. Just stupid. No matter what, it's your day. Everyone sucks here. What a stereotype of rich, entitled, petty, sad, and pathetic group of people. Your wife is ridiculous. The only marriage dress rule is not to wear white. Your wife controlling what your mother wears is ridiculous. You are ridiculous for taking your wife's side in this absurd petty woman's fight. You need to man up and control your wife's worst impulses, or prepare for a horrible life. And your attack against your mom was uncalled for. She did a petty swipe at your wife because she was being petty. You need to take charge and cut nonsense out at the root, not expand it. Not the a-hole. Your mom pushed you to your breaking point by being rude and manipulative, and now she's playing victim. She tried to purposely upset your wife on her wedding. Mom is toxic. I strongly dislike my daughter-in-law, so this might be clouding my judgment. My sister is not allowed to be around my grandchildren for a variety of reasons. Adultery. She had a drinking problem years ago. Emotional outbursts. I think the first two reasons are stupid, but the third is valid. My son and daughter-in-law were temporarily staying with us, though they had overstayed their welcome and lied multiple times about when they were leaving. My sister and her husband were having some work on her house done and needed a place to stay for a few days, and daughter-in-law got mad and said I couldn't invite her. That caused a huge fight, and I told her if she has such a problem with my sister, she can get out. My daughter-in-law asked me to babysit while my sister was there, and specified that my sister is not allowed to be alone with the kids. That's fine, but I ended up fainting. I was on some medication that I now know I'm allergic to, so while I was unconscious, my sister was technically alone with the children. I even waited to go to the doctor until daughter-in-law had gotten back. Daughter-in-law literally called me irresponsible for fainting and got mad that my sister was with the kids. She said it's my fault anyway for letting her live in the house. I told my son that night that I'm sick of her and they need a serious plan to move out. They've been gone for 3 months, and daughter-in-law just asked if I would babysit. I told her that she is demanding and rude. She never asked if I was okay, and I'm never helping her again. She got very angry and said she hopes I'm happy with my B sister. My son says he knows she's rude, but I should still help because we're family. Not the a-hole. Has medical emergency. This is all your fault. Not the a-hole. It wasn't even your fault you fainted. Honestly, your son needs to sit down with his wife and tell her to get over it. If she truly doesn't trust you, then her asking you to babysit is dumb. Not the a-hole. It would be one thing if you brought your sister over to daughter-in-law's house against her wishes, but she was in your house, and she can't dictate who else stays there. Honestly, thank goodness your sister was there to take care of the kids when you fainted.